tragedy that's going on here in the world, I actually sort of changed that lesson a little bit. I want to talk about when grief happens in community and what it means for us as grievers, and I also want to talk about how to support the griever. So those are two really important lessons that I haven't discussed in a really long time, and so I wanted to touch base on that. Grief isn't just private. You think it's just private. You think it's just about you, but grief isn't just private. Sometimes it doesn't just happen behind one door. It happens behind multiple doors. A lot of people get affected from your grief. A lot of people get affected from our loss, right? I distinctly remember when Austin died, Erica was getting calls from all around the world from people who had a friend who lived in New York, who had a friend who lived in New Jersey, heard about the loss, and then they would call. We think that a lot of times that the loss is just going to stay local to that one person or that one area. But the truth is, sometimes grief sweeps through a neighborhood, a school, a town, or even an entire city. It is not uncommon for us as grievers to feel the grief in many, many areas. It shows up in your church pews. It shows up in your locker rooms, in your classrooms, in the grocery store aisles. When a tragedy strikes a community, the grief becomes collective. It's all of us. And many times, even though it's in a small community, it can ripple out across the entire United States. It can ripple out across the entire world. There are many losses, the loss of Princess Diana, for example, that the whole world felt. Michael Jackson, Princess Diana, Prince. There are many losses that ripple out across the entire world. It doesn't just stay in the small community. When a child dies, when a natural disaster claims the lives of a child or any other person, grown or adult, a car accident takes someone too soon. When violence breaks the peace of that town, the events don't just affect the family. They don't affect just the family at the center of the loss. They impact everyone who witnessed it, everyone who loved them, everyone who knew them, even anyone who just lived near them can be affected by it. Just the person who lived down the street, even though they were 8 doors down. The ache of grief echoes far and wide. And I want to tell you guys this. I'm doing this based on the loss that they're experiencing in Texas. And a beautiful woman in here on Saturday, when I went live on Saturday, Suzanne was mentioning the loss and how her heart was feeling. The ache echoes far and wide. But because there is a community out there that is broken and hurt. Tracy says, we just had an 18-year-old in our community die by the hands of her ex-boyfriend. It is felt throughout the community. And hear me out. Let's say your loss was your child or your mother or your father or your brother or your sister. I want you thinking about it this way. When Austin died, it was a small child that died. Everybody wanted to do something to help. People wanted to do something to help, and the community really came together. I believe there were 4 fire trucks. There were 6 motorcycle cops that led the way, and then the fire trucks. There were at least 8 monster trucks, because that's all the stuff Austin was into. People volunteered to come out and be at the funeral. When we drove down the street, they thought Prince somebody had died. People were like, what is that? It was unbelievable. The most beautiful thing and the saddest thing was happening simultaneously. The reason I wanted to do this is because a lot of people in the community don't feel like they have the permission to grieve. And you do have the permission to grieve. Miss Tracy, we grieve for the loss of that child. We grieve for the mother's heart. We grieve for the father's heart. We grieve for the grandparents that are going through the grief, the loss. Well, I wasn't that close. I didn't know them personally. But a loss in a community can take your breath away. It absolutely can take your breath away. I don't want to make it worse by crying. We come up to a community, and for some of us, we have our own loss that we're bringing to that community. We have our own loss that we're bringing out. I lived in California at the time of the Saugus school shooting, and the entire community came out for that. Thank you for the heart. We showed up as a community. We showed up for one another. We showed up for the students. I was also in Santa Clarita, California, when the Route 66, the Jason Aldean concert, and the shooting in Las Vegas happened. I had a cousin that was there. I actually interviewed her on my show. I had a cousin that was there the day of the shooting. I had many many community neighbors that were at the concert. We lived very close to Las Vegas, driving distance. I had a friend whose son-in-law was shot. He made it out. He's okay. But the community to go through something like that, I distinctly remember getting calls to be at certain events, to be there for support, speaking at certain events, being on the radio, sharing about those events. When a community is shattered by a loss, it happens to everyone in the community. Everyone in the state can feel some sort of grief, can feel the pain in that area. And here's the thing that I've been saying this forever, and I wish we could do this, and I wish people would take heed this. But one of the things that we do when a community, and I'm going to harp on this for a second. One of the things we do when there's a tragedy in the community is we add the word strong to everything. And for us in Saugus, it was Saugus strong. You've actually seen Las Vegas strong, Allen, Texas, Allen strong. I actually live right near Allen, Texas. I was here when the shooting happened in Allen, Texas. Allen strong, Saugus strong. And I really, truly want to get across to the community that we need to be together. I tried as much as I could to get this going when we were in Saugus, because what happens when we do this strong is our kids perceive it as we're telling them to be strong. We should be together, grieving together. We're grieving together when this happens. Let's name it for what it is. It's grief. Even though it's on the front page, even if you weren't part of the inner circle, if your heart is heavy, if your sleep is disturbed, if your routine feels meaningless, you are grieving. Now, that grief could be from your own loss. You could absolutely be feeling your own loss from unresolved grief. You could be feeling it for the community. You could be feeling it for the town you lived in. You could be feeling it for the place where you are in your life right now. The grief can feel in so many different areas of your life. But here's what I want you to know. You cannot say that I know what they feel. You cannot say that. Because the truth is we don't. We don't know what they felt. We know what a broken heart feels like. But we do not know what another person is feeling in their grief. We never will. I cannot tell Tracy that I absolutely know what it was like for her to lose her child, because I don't. I know what a broken heart feels like. I know what my broken heart feels like. Communities often rally together in the first days after the tragedy. Meals are delivered, memorials are built, candle ceremonies are set up. They have the concert for this, they have the concert for that. We go, the churches, all the churches open their doors. How beautiful is that, right? Everybody comes. You've never felt so close in a community as when that happens, when everybody shows up for you. Meals are delivered, memorials are built, signs are built, visuals are held. So, so beautiful. All of it is gorgeous. There's also scams. A lot of scams come out of that. And I expect we'll be seeing a lot of scams here recently because the GoFundMes, some of them are scams. Some of them are much needed. What if everyone died but the 9-year-old child? We need the GoFundMe. I get it. I understand it. But we have to be careful for scams. Here's the other thing that happens. Days, weeks, everybody shows up. They bring the ham. They bring the potato salad. But very quickly, the world moves on. Soon as the news stations turn off their lights, soon as the TV stop talking about it, you don't hear about it on the news anymore. And I'm here to tell you that the grief lasts way beyond that. It doesn't just last as long as this is in the spotlight. The news is going to change the subject, and they will. And these parents and these children and these brothers and these sisters and these teachers and these counselors will still be in pain. That's because the community grief lasts longer than the public's attention. Let me say that again. The community's grief will last much longer than the public's attention. And no grief follows a timeline. It doesn't disappear just because the headlines do. Becky says it's so hard for everyone else. It's so hard when everyone else moves on in their life. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they move on quickly. We need the space to talk about the grief. We need the space to gather even after the grief has taken place. It's so quick that people support and people around us move on so quickly. It just blows my mind. Friends, I want to tell you this, and this is something that I do. A lot of times when I see on Facebook that so-and-so's father has died, so-and-so's mother has died, I don't reach out. One, it's weird for me to reach out. I'm the grief specialist, and I don't want to reach out people thinking that, oh my gosh, she just wants to get my business. That's number one. I don't do that. Number two, I know what's going to happen. I already know what's going to happen. There's going to be the report of what happened, right? We're going to get the call. We're going to get the call that so-and-so has died. That's number one. Then we got to have the funeral. So we get the call, and then the ham comes. And the visitors, the friends come. And I almost have it down to a science. It's about the 3-week mark. Everyone is gone. Everyone's gone. It's just the quiet, the silence is deafening. They're just gone. Not even here at the 3-week, but most times around the 2-month mark is where I will reach out to the family for the first time. Hey, just checking in on you. And when I check in on them, I go right for the grief. How's the grief doing? How's your grief doing? How's it been? Friends, everyone shows up in the beginning. They have a ton of people around them to the point that some people don't even know who's there. My son-in-law was telling me yesterday, he's married to my daughter, Brittany. Brittany was in school with Matt since he was 5 years old. They went to kindergarten together. And his mother died when he was 17. He was sharing a story for me that says, he was telling a story to me that said, I didn't even, that says, he said, I didn't even know Brittany was there. Brittany went to the funeral. She stood right next to him and she held his hand. She was able to describe everything that went on at that funeral place in that time. And he said he didn't even know she was there. He doesn't remember that. He doesn't remember being there because we don't see everyone. We don't see all the friends and family. They have a lot of friends and family that show up. These people are all going to leave around the third week. How much better is it going to be in the second month, the third month, the fourth month, and the fifth month if you're calling and checking on them? Yeah, he was totally overwhelmed. He was 17 and his mom had died. Bless his heart. He has an amazing story, my son-in-law. Why do they go away so early and move on? Because they think, Sandra says, why do they go away so early and move on? Do you think they should move? Do you think they should move at that time too? I think they leave because they're afraid it's going to rub off on them. Plus, they have their life. They forget. They go back to their life. They forget. And they think you're going to get over it. They think that it is just a short break into your life. They believe that it's just a short break into your life. It's an abbreviation, a detour from your normal happy life. And at some point you will get back to your normal happy life. Lorianne, I'm going to answer that question, but let me finish teaching this lesson. Any questions you have, I will answer at the end. Community grief can also reveal the depth of connection between the people. And if the connection is not there, it will grow, especially if it's a small town. I remember going to candle lighting ceremonies after the Route 66. We all stuck together. I remember candle lighting ceremonies, going to the church when the shooting had happened. When the Saugus shooting had happened. We're not as separate as we think we are. We're neighbors. We're grievers together. We even allow conflicts to soften at this time. We build bridges that haven't been there in a long time. We hug strangers. We can see it on the face of one another as we're walking through the town. Grief happens in community. When it happens to a community, we grieve together. But we have to let it be. We have to stop pretending that it's okay. We have to stop pretending that it's okay. If your community is grieving, know this. Your grief is 100% valid, even if you were simply living in the town. Your pain matters. Your pain matters for that situation. Healing begins when you stop grieving alone and you come together and allow it to be there in community. Friends, I didn't want to address specifically what has happened here in Texas, but I wanted to give tips for us so that we would know how to help one another in times like this. How to support the griever. How to be next to the griever and support them. A lot of what you're going to hear me say now is grief is support that you needed for yourself that didn't show up for you. It didn't show up for you in this way. There is a side of grief that rarely gets spoken about. We often focus on the parents. We run in to take care and make sure the parents are okay. That's what happened to me when Austin died. We focus on the spouse. We focus on the parents when their child has died. And as we should absolutely do that. But what about the people that show up quietly, steady? The ones that hold the space for everyone falling apart. What about the silent grievers? The grandmothers. She's there. She's not only grieving the loss of her grandchild, bless her heart, she's grieving the pain from her daughter, the pain she sees on her daughter's face, the pain she sees on her son's face, the pain from her son-in-law, The pain of the siblings that are having to get up every single day. She's mostly forgotten. The siblings, the best friends, the aunties, the neighbors, the cousins. Sometimes we make such a big deal, and I call them the griever. The person next to the person who's lost is the griever, but it ripples out. There are other people in the story that have also lost. The grandmothers, the siblings, the best friends, the aunts, the neighbors, the cousins, the community. They are grieving too, and sometimes we miss them. And they feel invisible in the aftermath. And when they have nowhere to lay this grief, they have nowhere to put this grief, it can start festering inside of them. Friends, I had nowhere to lay my grief. I had no one to talk to about my grief when Austin died. I didn't even allow my own grief to show up for me. If you're any of the above, this is for you. The ones who often suffer in silence, think about it. They're all grieving. We're all grieving that person. Yes, the casseroles get carried in. We bring the casserole in one hand and we bring the heartache in the other hand. We're the ones back in there cleaning the kitchen. Hey, Miss Joanne, we clean the kitchen. We answer the phone. We hold back the tears. And all we keep saying is, how can I help? And we keep helping and keep helping and keep helping. When Austin died, I was with my brother and my two sisters. We became the support for Erica and Lewis. We were the support staff. We were the support team. They were in shock. They couldn't think. They couldn't make decisions. I can't even tell you how many times when Donovan died that I would walk up to Erica, because I'd also felt that we'd done this before. Big or small, yellow or blue, big or green. Do you want it this way or this way? All I did was give her options. I didn't need her to be in there while I was trying to figure out all the stuff. Her brain couldn't think that. Her brain couldn't think that. I was making the calls. I was calling the people. I was getting to her. They were barely able to breathe. So we set up camp in their home. Here's the other thing that happened. We moved around like a beehive. It was the weirdest thing. When I say communities get closer, so do families. Sometimes families will come together when these things happen. They will really be the support. You're going to see someone in your family show up like you've never seen them before. You're like, man, I really thought he was lazy. And they really show up. We took calls. We jotted down messages. People from around the world were calling when Austin died. So-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so's brother heard about it and they would call. The house quickly filled up with flowers. Food was delivered. People were crying. I mean, it was a blur. It was a blur. But someone had to keep it all going, and we had to keep it going forward. So we came in and we did it. My parents were still alive then. And now that I said this, I think about my parents also seeing their own child grieve. All right. I want to tell you guys something. I don't think I've ever shared this before. I recently shared it in Grief Study Hall. When I show up to someone's house after a loss, I show up with three things. I don't bring the ham and potato salad. Even though I think my potato salad is pretty good, I don't bring that. I bring three things. I bring a notebook. And this all came about from losing Austin. I bring a pen, and I bring a case of water. Why? These are the three things I often bring when I show up at the house. And this is if I'm showing up that day immediately after the call, which has happened to me a lot. I absolutely get called a lot. Hey, we need you here. Can you come? I bring a notebook because the phones are ringing off the hook. Now, for most of us, they're not house phones anymore, but for a lot of us, they're still our house phones. But everyone's cell phone is ringing off the hook. I bring a fresh, clean notebook. And I tell them, whoever's there, whoever's in the house, take this notebook and set it on the dining room table or where the kitchen table where most of the action is taking place at the event. So we bring a notebook and we set that down because people are calling. Believe it or not, the police department is calling. The detectives are calling. The coroner's calling. The funeral home is calling. People are calling to say when their flight will be delivered, when their flight will come in, that they're coming to the funeral. You get the information from the funeral home about what date and time the funeral is going to be. You write it in the notebook. That way, whoever's there can look up in the notebook when anyone calls and they can give the correct information. Flowers are getting delivered. Hams are getting delivered. Potato salad is getting delivered. Cards are coming in. You think the grievers can keep track of all that? No. We have a notebook. I bring a pen. Why do I bring a pen? Because I don't want to have to look for a pen at your house. You are out of your mind. Can you imagine me going, can you get me a clean notebook and a pen? Friends, when Austin died, I bought a notebook and a pen. We set it on the table. It became, I don't want to offend anyone here, but it became the Bible. It became the Bible of everything that was going on. That notebook sat there. Everybody would put information in there. If we needed anything, it was in the notebook. Every time something happened, it was write it in the notebook. Erica was able to go to the notebook afterwards and send out thank you notes based on things that were in the notebook. I still have a notebook from my dad. I don't want to have to look for a pen. I bring a case of water because I don't know what the condition of your home is. 20 or 30 people are going to show up. If somebody walks in and I can at least offer them a bottle of water, at least I'm doing something. It makes them feel like they're doing something. Quickly after a loss, sodas are going to show up. People are going to bring ice. People are going to come. They're going to start bringing stuff. And that stuff that starts to show up will then help to feed the masses, right? But these three things are amazing if you're the first person to show up. The phone will ring nonstop. People will leave voicemails. Cards will start arriving. And somewhere, someone needs to write things down. Grievers don't have the capacity to track all of that. And they shouldn't have to. And that's why we do it. Here's the role of the support staff. Eric used to crack up when I would call them that, the support staff. Your job is not to take over. It is to hold space for the griever. Create calm in this chaos. Be useful without being loud. Be present without being overpowering. Helpful without making it about you. That's your job. Honestly, I wish I had that on a card because I would give it out to everyone. Here's the other thing. I just lost my train of thought. Everyone in here who's listening to this right now, I promise you, Miss Joanne, Sandra, Pauline, Rose, Linda Lou, we will never show up the same way at a griever's house. Once you've been through a loss, you will never show up the same way. You are forever changed, and you will be forever different at every person's house you go to. You're not going to make it about you because you remember what that felt when that happened to you. You're not going to ask them what can do. You're just going to do it because you already know. You know that trash needs to be taken out on Thursday. You're just going to go get the trash cans and take them out. If you see a mess in the kitchen, you're just going to fix it. You're not going to say anything about it. That's what we do when we're a griever. And that's part of the forever changed. When we show up forever changed, you never show up the same way again. And even though you may not, and I want you to know this, you're not feeling your own emotions. You're feeling the emotions of your people. I'm sorry, you're feeling your own emotions. You're not feeling their emotions. You still won't show up the same way. It's okay to make small decisions. Where to place the cards, where to put the notebook, where to put the paper plates, whether to buy paper plates or not, whether to order food or have people bring it in, but always make sure you're doing it with care. For the big decisions, you want to make sure the grievers are making those big decisions, not you. The funeral, the memorial, the obituary, those are for them, not for you. Let them decide. So for me, for Erica, for Austin, and for Donovan, when I tell you my cousins showed up, my smart, very capable cousin showed up, and for both Donovan and Austin, and we worked together as a team. We would get everything done, and we would take it to them, and then they would make the final decisions. I cut out all the questions. I didn't need 30 questions for her. A or B, that's all I needed. And she would just pick. And I supported whatever she chose. Whatever decision she made, even if it wasn't the one I liked, I supported it. That's what happens in their grief. They cannot make decisions. You showing up for them is huge. Erica and Lewis also had other children. And they still had to be the parents in the middle of this tragedy. We made sure that they didn't have to worry about groceries. What was at the front door? Who was calling? Here's the other thing that's really important. We drove them to appointments. I drove Erica everywhere. Grievers can't think. They don't even remember how to get home. I didn't want her to have to think about that. I drove her everywhere. I didn't have to help her get dressed and things like that. Like, we could talk about things that she needed. I went to the store and got her some things. But we worked together. We worked together and we were together. That's the part of the support that no one tells you. Supporting a griever doesn't mean you're not grieving. You absolutely are grieving. It means your grief. It means that a lot of times your grief can get pushed aside. And if you're not careful, it can go unspoken and unattended to. Because a lot of times what happens is that it becomes so much about the other person that you get looked over. You've got to tell your truth in your grief. You've got to tell your truth. Linda Lou says, when my son died, I didn't do anything. I just laid in bed. My heart to yours, my love. Truly, my heart to yours. So right now, I want to speak to the silent griever, because here's the other thing. Sometimes you're the griever, but sometimes you can be the silent griever. You're the grandmother. You're the aunt. You're the uncle. You're the cousin. You're the neighbor 4 doors down. Right? Sometimes you can be the silent griever. You're the person who admired Princess Di and just knew the two of you were going to be best friends. You're allowed to feel your heartbreak. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to fall apart in between all the tasks that you're doing. You're even allowed to fall apart in front of them. You are allowed to fall apart in front of them just because they are the griever. So I'm going to tell you who I call the griever. I call the griever the person that is closest to the deceased. So here's Erica and Lewis, and here's Austin. To me, Erica and Lewis were the grievers in this scenario. And then Donovan was also a griever. We are the grievers also, but we're in the background. My family was in the background looking on. We were looking on. We were also the grievers. We're grievers, but these are the ones that are making the decisions. So everything came about them. If it's your husband that passes away, you're the wife or the griever. If it's your child, the parents, and then the siblings. That's who I call the griever. I'm doing great. How you doing, Flaw Girl? You don't have to be strong every minute of the day just because you're the support. You just have to show up. You matter. You lost someone too. I lost someone too. And I'm saying this because I denied my own grief when Austin died. I did the same thing when Donovan died. I put my grief on the back burner. If you're not supporting someone in fresh grief, here's ways to truly help. If you are, stay close. especially in the early days. Just your presence can make a difference. When I got called to someone from church whose husband died, and she probably got the call at 10. I got the call at 10:30. 10:45, I was at the house. She asked me some questions. I answered those questions. And then I went and sat in the corner. I was just there. Every few minutes, she was going around doing things. She would come and ask me something else. I was just support. I also brought the notebook, pen, and bottled water. Let them make every decision they want to make. Do not argue with them and support their decisions. Manage the logistics, the times, the calls, the errands. Drive them. Grievers are often disoriented and not fully present. Answer calls on their behalf. Tell them the information, give them the phone number, let them call back. Track the gifts, the flowers, and the visitors. Use the notebook. It works wonders here. Use the notebook. Assist with the memorial, the funeral plans, in whatever ways you can. This is not a time for your opinions or your control. Express your own emotions. It's not your job to be a robot. You have the right to feel. Maybe you're grieving a niece. Maybe you're grieving a godson. Donovan was my godchild. Maybe you're grieving a best friend. I grieved the loss of my best friend, Sharon, and she had 3 children. I was not the griever in that situation. I'm a griever, but her kids were the ones that were making the decisions. Friends, when you're supporting someone who is grieving, that is sacred. It is the most beautiful thing that you can do. It's love in motion, but it's always heavy. It's exhausting, and it's heartbreaking because you are supposed to be standing up for the person and being the griever. It's exhausting. So when things get quiet, go do some dishes. Organize a notebook. But also know you have the right to collapse. You have the right to cry. You have the right to step outside. You have the right to leave to get a breather. You can do all of those things. You may also need support for yourself. When Austin and Donovan died, people from my church, Sharon, showed up for me. And I was just saying this. When Sharon died, I needed a Sharon. Let someone pour you a glass of water. Let someone hand you a plate of food. Let people ask you how you're doing because you're grieving too. You are grieving too. You don't have to steal the limelight. They're the grievers. You're the support. You don't have to steal the limelight, but you're grieving. And you're not invisible here. I want you to remember this, friends. Days after the death, people's homes are flooded with everything. Everything is coming in, the casseroles, the sympathy, the flowers. And as the days pass, the home will grow very quiet. And that's when the real weight settles in. That's when the real weight settles in. That's when the grief becomes so heavy. I want you to know that you need to check in often at that point, especially past the 2-month mark. You can set a timer in your phone. Okay, on the 1st of every month, I'm going to text her and see how she's doing. I'm going to text her 1 month, and 1 month I'm going to invite her out. Check in often. Send a text. I'm thinking about you. How's the grief today? Ask about the grief. Ask about the grief. Ask about the grief. Hit it head on. Suzanne, awesome, Suzanne. She says, but don't have any expectations for a response because sometimes you won't get one. She's absolutely right. Drop off a meal 3-4 weeks later. Take the kids for an hour. Take the kids for a night. Invite them to sit in silence with you, or go to her house and just sit next to her in silence. Not every gesture has to be grand. Some of the ones that Erica most remembers were the small, simple gestures, the ones that were consistent. My brother has a best friend named Shane. Shane showed up at Erica's house every night for 1 year. Sometimes she wouldn't be home. Sometimes she would be home. Sometimes he would take the trash out. Sometimes he would walk in the house and just tell jokes. Sometimes he would sit and talk with her about grief, and they would cry together. But every night on the way home, he stopped at her house for 1 year and checked on her. Every time I think about that, it moves my heart. Grief is a long road. Grief is a long road. And the ones grieving cannot walk it alone. They need help. If you're not sure what to say, then don't say anything. Because here's the truth, friends. There are no words. There are no words. And you can actually say that. When we see people post on Facebook, oh, my grandpa just died. Don't text back, he lived a happy life. At least he's no longer in pain. I don't know. People say stuff like that. Oh, Suzanne, there are no words. Please tell me, write it in here right now. Write it in Facebook. What are the 3 things that somebody could have said that would have made a difference in your life? Because when I tell you that it is absolutely true, your loss is exactly as bad as you think it is. I wrote this in a podcast today. Your loss is exactly as bad as you think it is. When I tell you that, what words could I say to you that would make that go away? You just found out your child has died. What words can I say to you? So say that. There are no words. Oh, friend, I'm so sorry to hear about your grandpa. If I was near you, I'd give you a hug right now. If you're not sure what to say, don't say anything. If you're afraid you're going to say the wrong thing, I love you. I'm thinking of you. How's the grief? If you're afraid you're going to say the wrong thing, listen more. Listen more. Don't talk. Grievers don't need your solution. They don't need to be fixed. They're not broken. They need your presence. They require your presence. Suzanne says, I think it'd be perfectly okay for someone to say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. Becky says people were telling her that her son was in a better place. Now, those are the people that you wish had nothing to say. Those are the people you wish had nothing to say. It is absolutely okay to talk to someone you trust. It's okay to journal. It's okay to cry in your car. It's okay to light a candle. It's okay to say their name. It's okay for you to show up for the griever and do any of these. Light a candle, cry, be with them, bring a journal. All of these are okay when you're the support for the people and you're showing up for them. Absolutely okay. Your story matters. Your grief story matters. Your grief story matters. And your grief story is not finished. For most of you, it's just beginning. Your grief story matters. All right. I started this out talking about community, how we grieve in community. I went from how we grieve into community to how we support the griever. It's so important to understand how to support a griever and not be afraid to support the griever. It's so important for us to understand that that we do grieve in community. Third, most important thing I want to talk about today is talking to our children about loss. I've done this before, but it's nice to bring it up every now and then. Friends, what has happened this week in Texas has brought all this to me. And I didn't want to be speaking to them exactly, but I thought, what can I do to be of service? And this was the way I could be of service. To everyone here, we have to change the way we're grieving. We have to change the way we show up for the griever. We have to change the way our heart shows up for the griever. I love that, Linda Lou. Linda says she's going to buy some nice notebooks and pens. Forever, that's who we're going to be now. Can you imagine just that one thing? Tony and I, my husband and I, he has a very, very good friend, and his son unalived himself. I'm trying to think of the proper word to say it for here. His son unalived himself, and I showed up with a pen, a notebook, and a case of water. And I remember the wife, she was like, thank you. And we hung out at the house for a while. It was not 3 days later, she called me up on the phone. She said, I didn't know what that notebook was for. But when I tell you thank you, Sharon, thank you. A police detective called. She grabbed that notebook and was able to take notes. People were writing stuff in the notebook because the notebook was there. She didn't have to go look for paper or a pen. Okay, talking to our children about loss. Grief affects everyone in the family, including the youngest members. Grief affects everyone, including the youngest members. Children are most often overlooked because we don't want them to feel the pain. We don't want them to be sad. So we're going to portray this as much as we can so they don't have to experience it. It's not because people don't care. It's because we're trying to protect the children, protect the littles. But how are they going to learn to grieve if we don't bring them into the experience? Children grieve too. Children grieve too. They hurt, they worry, and they wonder. And if you don't fill in the blanks for them, they're going to fill in the blanks for themselves. Do you have to tell them that their brother unalived himself? That's a personal decision for you. And everything you tell a child is age appropriate. Whatever is age appropriate, that's what we're going to tell them. They deserve honesty and compassion and comfort. And here's some essentials. You always go first. You always go first as the adult. You are the leader and you're modeling honesty and openness. So you always go first when you're talking to the child. Hey, Bobby, come over and sit down. I have some things to tell you. Grandpa died. When we are talking to our child, and I'm going to call a child 18 and below, when we're talking to our child, we are always going to tell the truth. I'm going to say that in a little bit. But we're always going to tell them, we're going to use the words death or died in the first conversation. Now, you can use passed away later, but when you first have the conversation for them, we're going to say Grandpa died. Why? Because we want to tell them the truth. That's number one. Number two, if we tell our child that Grandpa is gone to be with God, that Grandpa is gone to be in heaven, that Grandpa is with Jesus, that Grandpa is resting in peace, although all of those may be true, For a small child, it sounds like someplace they can go and get them. We also don't want them to be mad at God because we want them, they're thinking that God took their person. So for the very first conversation, you will always go first and you will be honest and open. I have some bad news to tell you. Grandpa died last night. Then you're just going to zip it and see what they say next and what their response is going to be. Can you cry when you're telling your child? Yes. Yes, you can cry. Tracy says, I grieve loud to be an example. I grieve out loud to be an example. Absolutely. The most amazing, beautiful thing you can do for your child is to grieve in front of them. I had a woman call me many years ago and she was like, hey, do you think you and Erica can help my son? He's grieving the loss of his dad. The loss of his dad. Yes, absolutely. What was his dad to you? I didn't know. Oh, he's my husband. Were you married? Yes, we were married. But you asked me to help your son grieve the loss of his dad. Well, yes, she said, all he does is go in his room. He's not talking to me. I think the kid was 16 years old. And I said, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you grieving? Tell me about your grief. I just transitioned into that. And she said, oh, every time I feel something, I just go in my room and close the door. So she goes in her room and closes the door. He's 16 years old. He goes in his room and closes the door. Where is he learning how to grieve? He's learning how to grieve from her. Everything he sees her do, he's doing. You tell the truth always, and always go first, and always tell the truth. It builds trust with your child, and it helps them to feel safe and express their own emotions. You're going to tell the truth about your own emotions. Meaning if you cry, you're going to cry in front of them. If you're feeling sad, you're having a bad day, you're going to do that in front of them. Age appropriate. Age appropriate. If they're 3 years old, I'm not going to have a fall down fit in front of them. I might in front of an 18-year-old. I might show a little bit more of my grief to an 18-year-old than I show to a 3-year-old, but I'm not shielding from the 3-year-old either. Always recognize that grief is an emotional experience that takes place in our heart. Always recognize that grief is not intellectual. It's not taking place in our brain. Sad, scared, afraid, embarrassed are all feelings. And all of these feelings are normal. And all of these normal emotions will take place on the grief healing journey. And if your child comes up to you and says that they are sad, wow, buddy, do you want to tell me more about that? How long have you been sad? You're not going to tell them not to be sad. Oh, don't be sad. Grandpa wouldn't want you being sad. We know for a fact that a child between the ages of 4 and 7 can figure out the grieving experience on their own, the process. We see it in them. They talk grief. They talk in grief. They share things in grief. Do listen with your heart to your child as they're talking. The thing about a child that's grieving is that you're going to hear them talk a lot about grandpa. They're going to tell stories about grandpa. We want you listening to those stories. Do listen with your heart, not with your head. Don't try to change it or fix it. Let all the emotions come through. Do remember that each child is unique and that each child is going to have a different expression of their grief. And do always be patient. Don't force them to talk if they're not going to talk. One of the things you can do is you can tell a story from yourself. You can still tell the story from yourself. Hey, Bobby, I was really missing Grandpa today. I was so sad. So you're going to tell the story And then you're going to end with an emotional word. I was really missing Grandpa today. I was so sad. Never tell your child that you feel scared, or I'm sorry, not to feel scared. You can tell them you feel scared. Don't tell them not to feel scared. Fear is normal. Fear is a normal response to grief. You just acknowledge it. Oh, yeah. Why are you scared? I've been scared too. And this is why I've been scared. Just have the conversation. Don't tell them not to be sad. Sadness is a human, necessary emotion and loss. This one's huge. Don't ask your child how they're feeling because they don't know. They don't know how to put these emotions into words. They don't have language. Sometimes they don't have a comfort level. So if you ask them how they're doing, they're going to tell you fine. They're going to tell you fine. Don't act strong for your children. Don't act like you're not grieving. Never do that. If they never see you cry, they might think that they shouldn't be crying either, especially when they told them to be strong. People are coming up to them, telling them that they need to be strong for you. Don't never compare their situation to others. Well, you know, Bobby's grandpa died, and look at how Bobby's doing. Bobby may have never seen his grandpa, but only on summer vacations for 2 weeks. He might not even know his grandpa. Where your kid could have been living next door to grandpa his entire life. And never, ever, ever make promises you can't keep. Don't promise them you're not going to die. Don't promise them you'll never get a divorce. Do not make promises you're never going to keep. We will do everything we can to stay safe. Instead of everything's going to be okay, mom's not going to leave you. And the most important thing is, don't forget that they're smart. They are so smart. Children are wise. They feel everything. Give them the space to grieve. Allow them to grieve openly. Don't rush to them every time you see them crying. Let them cry. Then go in a little bit. Give them the space to do it. Create rituals with them where they can light a candle and talk about grandpa. Draw a picture. Write a letter. This grief belongs to the whole family, just like it belonged to the community. Just like it belonged to the community. And when we make space in our heart, even for the tiniest, littlest ones, to express their pain, it is beautiful when the family grieves together. Absolutely. Friends, my heart goes out to all of the families in Texas. Honestly, I honestly cannot even begin to imagine what they are experiencing right now. I wanted to be able to help in some way. And so that grieving in community, how to help the griever and how to talk to your children was the most amazing gift that I could give back to all of us so that we can learn how to start grieving properly and spread the word. And eventually, all of us together are going to change the way people grieve. We're going to change the way people show up for us because we're going to show up differently. We're going to show up as the grievers and support that we wish we had. We're going to show up as the grievers and the support that we wish we had. Okay, TikTok, hold on. I'm going to be with you. Thank you, everyone. I am so honored to be here with you. Even for these messages, even though they're an hour long, seem like they're so short to me. They seem like they're so short to me. I love you, each and every one of you. And I will be back. Hold on real quick. This is for everybody. Today is Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. I will tell you, and I don't know if I told everyone here, but my uncle passed away. And I will be leaving next Tuesday to go to that funeral. I will be taking off all of next week after Tuesday. Well, basically all of next week after Tuesday. And I will be showing up the following week, but for lives only, and I don't have the times. They're going to be random. Please make sure you're a member of the Facebook group so that you can get the recordings should you like to see the lives. I'm going to go connect that trip to taking my granddaughter, who is on the spectrum, to school for the first day. So I will be attending with her mom. So I've decided to add that to the end of my uncle's trip. And also Erica's book signing in LA is going to be taking place, and I'll be going to that. So I'll be keeping you guys abreast of all the things that we're doing. I love you all, and I will see you on the next live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Hold on, TikTok. I'm going to answer some questions for you.